Hey everybody, on this episode of the Macgyver After Show, we're breaking down Season 1, Episode 6, The Wrench. A lot of stuff happened this episode, but the most important is they say that peanut M&Ms and Kit Kats are the best Halloween candy. I disagree. Let's do this.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Yeah, let's bring it in. Yeah, that hardcore Macgyver from the 80s. Hey everybody, welcome to the Macgyver After Show here on AFTERBUZZ TV. I'm your host, Frank Moran. You can follow me on Twitter at HappyGoJackie. My co-host, my partner in crime, Mike Kalinowski, he's once again on assignment. This is his last week on assignment, though, so he'll be back in the studio next Sunday. Oh my, I cannot wait to share the pen with him again. But I thank all of you here that have been sticking around with me for this week, at our 5th week of breaking down this season's Macgyver's episodes. They're just you and I and you and me in the chat and me on the mic. Such a great team we've made. So even though Mike, I'll be happy to have Mike back, you guys have made this past 5 weeks incredibly enjoyable. So thank you so much. And speaking of being able to communicate and get in touch and share your feedback about the show, you can like us on Facebook, give us those 5 stars on iTunes, subscribe to the YouTube channel, as well as hop in the chat. So if I hop in the chat and we'll start breaking down this episode, share your thoughts about the series in general or this episode in particular. As I mentioned, there's going to be a point where we're going to be talking about Halloween candy, guys. So, and I'll be finding out what your favorite Halloween candy are. You can chime in when we get to a little bit at that point in the episode. I'll just say what they said in this episode. I disagree. Not my top one choice. But we're breaking down here. Oh, hey, look at that. We got T. Lindsay. Hey, hi, Frank. How are you? Hey, everybody. Good evening. Yes, we were breaking down Episode 6, The Wrench, and we start off somewhere in Eastern Europe, about a half mile away from an exfil point. And a really cool start inside the episode is that we see Jack, Riley, and Mac. They're trapped in a vehicle, and it's being buried underground. Basically, whoever the bad henchman guy that was chasing them, they crashed. They kind of ran into a ditch, and so that guy hopped onto like a bulldozer and just started burying them underneath mounds and mounds of dirt. Really cool way to get into this. And just from the teases from last week, it made it seem like that this was going to be pretty much the climax of the entire episode. And really cool that this show just decided, nope, you know what? Our show's so awesome that we can just do this as just a little cold open to our show. And we've got a lot more good stuff to show you for the rest of the time. So really cool how they just use this for just like a little teaser to kind of get you ready for the rest of the episode. So they're basically stuck underground, and you realize you only have about maybe 15 minutes of oxygen less if everybody starts yelling and debating about who is responsible for getting us trapped in this ditch. Basically, as usual, they're somewhere in Middle Eastern Europe trying to get some computer device away from some kind of ruthless dictator. So the details aren't important. The only thing that is important is that they are trapped underground in a vehicle and quickly running out of oxygen. But Matt gets in the front and uses the airbags to create an explosion. And he knows that they're powerful enough that if you direct them in the right way, that they can shatter even heavily reinforced bulletproof glass. So really cool way to get them out of this. I never thought about using airbags in such a way, but detonates it against the glass of the vehicle. It blows a hole through the windshield, also through the top of the dirt mound, and they're able to get out. I do like the way that Jack leaves it, where he says, "Oh wait, I could kiss you," and Mac just says, "You know what? Knowing that is good enough. That's all I need." So that kicks us into this episode. And as usual, seems like the standard is after we do the nice little cold open, we get the credits, and then we always end up back in L.A. We're always coming in just as they're getting back from some kind of adventure abroad. And as usual, we get my least favorite part of every episode of this version of Macgyver. Sorry to say, if you are a Bozer fan, that's great. He's just not my cup of tea. I just still don't understand what he's doing for this show. But Jack comes back over to Mac's place, and he's got some coffee, getting ready to talk to everybody. And, of course, Halloween's coming up, so a bunch of pumpkins laid out, a mask as well. And we find out that Bozer wants the rest of the crew, meaning Jack, Mac, and Riley, to go with him to a Halloween party. And if they do that, they're going to have to wear these cool masks. And he wants to do president's masks. So if everybody goes, they get to wear a cool president's mask that Bozer made. So, for me, heck, I would, if somebody's willing to go through that time to make a mask, kind of do like a custom mold in my head and then kind of use that as a way to transform it into a president's head, make me my own kind of custom fit mask. All right, I'll do it. So for that reason, Bozer, that moment, pretty cool dude. But still, I don't understand what the point of this is. Now, here's also where Bozer and I disagree, is because he says that peanut M&Ms and Kit Kats top everyone's list for candy. I heartily disagree. For me, I am a Milk Duds guy. I'm just saying that right now. I could... those little boxes of Milk Duds, those are just candy gold. You get those from somebody, that is somebody that said, like, you know what, I am a person of discerning taste. I'm going to give you something that's so fantastic, this little cube, and inside there are hopefully four, sometimes occasionally three, which is always a disappointment, but four this delicious little caramel coated caramel nuggets enrobed. Let's do it enrobed. Why don't I use that really weird and uncomfortable word? Enrobed in milk chocolate. They are fantastic. So number one, far and away, there you go, Milk Duds. Somebody doesn't give you Milk Duds, you can walk away thinking a little less of them. Not to say that peanut M&Ms and Kit Kats aren't fine. They're fine, but they're not the favorite. They don't top my personal list. You got to put Milk Duds is a far away, distant first over everybody. I would actually go Reese's Pieces, number 2. That would be a pretty good one for that. But sorry, peanut M&Ms, Kit Kats. Come on, Bozer. I always see why we're not hanging out that much. Now, while Mac and Jack are over at Mac's place talking with Bozer, we find out that Thornton is kind of taking advantage of what Jack and Mac talked about last episode, which is starting to give Riley some field training so that she's going to be prepared for when she is in the field and able to kind of take care of herself. So we see Thornton and her sparring, and not sure how long this training's been going on, but enough that they feel like that Riley can kind of somewhat get the idea of what Thornton's trying to give her. And she actually does manage to throw Thornton down. And the idea is that even though Riley's starting to get it, it's not enough just to get it. You need to be able to do it just second nature. It's got to just come completely off the cuff without any thought and be able to execute it perfectly. So before they continue any further, though, Thornton gets a call from the FBI and calls in Mac. And we find out that Thornton asks Mac, do you know Charlie Robinson? And he says that Charlie Robinson was one of the best bomb techs that Mac had ever worked with. And we found out that Charlie needs to see Mac and only Mac because the feds in New York, they found and disabled a bomb in a parking garage at the United Nations. And Charlie came in from Quantico and went to examine it. And he took one look at it, and he called headquarters requesting Mac. So he's the only person that Mac that he trusts to take a look at this device. So Mac is wheels up, and he heads to New York. So it gets to New York, and we find that he touches base with Charlie. So like, why do you want me here for this, Charlie? And Charlie breaks down that the explosive compound is pure petin, which is made from heart medication itself, which I had never heard of this as a vehicle for an incendiary device, but sure enough it is. And they realize that only one person could do this. And they're not quite mentioning who this person is yet by name. It kind of being cryptic, like they don't, almost like they don't want to really believe that this person could possibly be the one behind this bomb. But they also know that this person doesn't usually operate on U.S. soil. So Charlie says he knows and he hopes he's wrong, but he wants to have Mac there to double check this, just to make sure. So they start taking apart the device, and all of a sudden, as they're cutting away part of it, they find a secondary device, and it's a 3D printed polymer, which is invisible to X-rays, so it was basically a bomb within a bomb. As Mac opens up that 3D polymer plastic case there, it starts a mini bomb inside there with a 3-minute countdown. So basically, Mac, he and Charlie are wearing bomb-proof suits, or not bomb-proof. No suit would be bomb-proof, but they're bomb suits on. And Mac takes the top of it off and wraps it around the bomb, and they head out the building and figure they've got 3 minutes to figure out some way to do this to kind of hopefully minimize or at least prevent any sort of casualties. And as it was kind of interesting, where Mac starts breaking down the different type of factors when it comes to bombs. There's detonation velocity, detonation pressure, and then a French word which I rewound and tried to understand. I couldn't figure out exactly what the French word was, but basically it is French for shatter capability. And we find out that Pettin, if you're using this as the core of your incendiary device, it's going to be a big and fast explosion. And so Mac knows he needs to direct that explosion somewhere else. Otherwise, it's going to hurt a lot of people. So what he does is he sees a manhole cover. He places that bomb still wrapped up in the top part of the bomb suit, and then covers it with a garbage huge one of those dumpsters, garbage dumpsters. Turns it over, covers it with that, and then takes the lid and has that kind of laying down next to it from the top, which is still connected, like any dumpster always has a lid connected to the top. And he drives a car on top of that lid to help kind of keep reinforcing and keep that garbage dumpster down over the explosion. And when the bomb goes off, it ends up being directed down through the subway tunnels, or excuse me, the sewer tunnels underneath the UN building, and detonates safely there without destroying anybody or killing anybody. There's no casualties. So Macgyver, very quick thinking. Charlie realizes that if the bomb would have killed everyone in the building if it had gone off as originally intended, and they feel like that was the idea. It was a bomb within a bomb, but the idea was to get all these experts into this building and then have it go off and knocking out a lot of people in one fell swoop. So they realize that this kind of work is definitely the signature of the Ghost. I feel like the Ghost is on American soil, which is, according to us, I mean, it seems like really kind of crazy and creepy. I feel like that this mysterious ghost is all of a sudden now operating in U.S. soil. And so an exciting moment like that, you're probably wondering, like, man, I am trying to save people with a 3-minute countdown on a bomb. You often wonder, like, man, I hope I do not soil myself, because just the scariness of trying to one, disarm a bomb. But if you can't disarm a bomb, find some place where you can stash it where no one is going to get hurt. You're running with a 3-minute countdown on that, and trying to keep all your wits about you while you're trying to save everybody else. My undies would not make it through clean. But, if we're talking about undies for a second, why don't you picture a world where putting on a new pair of underwear isn't just fresh, you're stepping into a better day, which Mac, in this episode, after all dealing with all these explosive devices, definitely needs a better day. So why not get some new undies? Now think about it. Underwear is the first thing that you put on and the last thing you take off. Now why would you settle for anything less than the best feeling underwear on the planet? MeUndies focus solely on producing the most comfortable underwear you've ever experienced. My friends at MeUndies sent me a few pairs a while back, and you know what? I can't imagine wearing anything else. It really makes each day that much better. It certainly makes breaking down. I mean, I'm just watching Mac disarm bombs, but I felt very comfortable with that. So, MeUndies kept me feeling very comfortable, and I could only empathize with Mac. I don't have to worry about anything happening with me. But now, for the right price, for the price of 2 cocktails, MeUndies will deliver your new favorite pair of underwear right to your doorstep. It's a better day guaranteed. Look at that. You don't have to go out and find a better day. It comes right to your doorstep. Try them on. If you aren't the most comfortable, best-feeling panties you've ever had, they'll refund you and let you keep your first pair for free. Now, included in the price is a sweet touch of model, a special fabric made with best-in-class raw materials that are scientifically proven to be 3 times softer than cotton. Not a bad deal. These uber cozy undies are sold exclusively on the MeUndies website, where you'll enjoy free shipping in the U.S. and Canada. And for a limited time, everyone here on in my audience, the Macgyver After Show here on AfterBuzz TV, gets 20% off their first order. But you have to go to our special URL, MeUndies.com/comfort. That's right, /comfort. With the MeUndies Better Day Guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So don't wait any longer. Go to MeUndies.com/comfort right now for 20% off your first order. That's MeUndies.com/comfort. Now, speaking of comfortable, sadly, our crew is not feeling very comfortable right now because the Ghost is on U.S. soil. And as we're looking around the bomb site, Mac notices some shards of glass and picks them up and looks at them, and Charlie figures out that the glass that Mac found was from a camera, and they also found parts of a SIM card that were all in the bomb. So clearly somebody is watching Mac and Charlie as they're trying to disarm this bomb. So basically, Mac is talking to Jack and Riley and realizing they're going to come from L.A. to New York because they're not going to let Mac work on this case alone. So when Riley gets out there, even though they only have parts of a SIM card, Riley's able to use enough information to be able to kind of start figuring out a way to kind of track this SIM card back to its source. And I do like that because as they're driving into New York, they Riley is basically breaking down how she's going to use this parts of the SIM card to kind of recreate a signal that they can trace to the source. And she's just breaking down all the technical things that she's going to be doing and why she's doing it. And Jack just says, "Hey, Riley, who are you talking to?" I do like that Riley says, "I thought you were talking to you guys, but clearly you guys haven't been listening." So I guess I'm just talking to myself. So Jack, though, noticed that Mac is just kind of distracted, kind of looking off, and he mentions to Mac that he hasn't seen him like this since they first met. And right away, Mac is already doing his little thing where he's popping up with a paperclip, and he's already doing something different, which, I guess is another go-to for every episode. We're going to see Mac making some kind of weird sculpture out of a paperclip, which kind of made sense where, if he was always walking into Thornton's office and they're kind of getting debriefed about what this next mission was going to do, that there would always be, just like a little bowl or a cup full of paper clips that Thornton would need doing paperwork and whatnot. But interesting to see that no matter where Mac goes, he's always got a paperclip with him because he never knows when he's going to have to just bust it open and make some kind of weird paperclip sculpture that's kind of based on the mission at hand. So we find out, though, that as Mac starts working away on whatever he's going to be turning that paperclip into, Mac never told Jack about the story about what the ghost did to him, why he is such a vendetta to go get the ghost. And Mac says, "You know what? I'm going to hold on to that story for a little while. I don't want to really share that yet." And Jack is just, hey, Mac, Riley and I were here for you. So when you're ready to open up, we're here to listen. And they get to the location. We find out that Mac's little paperclip sculpture is almost like an old school cartoony type bomb, like hitting a water, or maybe it's like the explosion is starting to hit as it's kind of making contact with a surface. And then he just leaves it on the dashboard of the vehicle. So it's like, all right, thanks. There's just this paperclip of a bomb hitting something, and now it's just laying on the dashboard of this vehicle. Okay. So they get up to where they think the door of the apartment is, that they think the ghost is inside, but realizing, of course, the ghost, smart guy, is probably not going to leave this just open for anybody to get into, so they want to check to make sure there aren't any wires. And really cool that Mac does a little thing where he takes some chewing gum, cell phone, pops open the casing of the cell phone, and gets the digital camera outside of it. And using gum, is able to then take part of the cord out, use gum to kind of give it a surface that they can slide on, and then slides it underneath the door and is able to kind of look underneath and see what's happening. They realize there aren't any wires on the door, but they see that there's somebody sitting in the room. They're back to the camera. They realize this could be the ghost. So Jack goes to kick down the door, and it doesn't break. He tries to kick it one more time, and he goes, "Man, this door is not breaking." We find out that it's a reinforced door. So Jack and Mac kick it together, and they finally get the door open. But that delay of trying to kick open a reinforced door gives enough time for the ghost to get out and escape before they can make their way into the apartment. So they look around, and they realize that there's a laptop, and there's also a video screen. And certainly the ghost has been watching some of the feed from the peace talks that are happening at the UN, feeling that's the whole reason that the ghost is there, is that he wants to disrupt these talks. He also sees on the computer that the video of Mac trying to disarm that bomb that the ghost had planted earlier, he's watching it from the point of view of inside the bomb, looking at Mac doing that. And so realizing, yep, this is the right place. This is the ghost. This is the guy. And the laptop that the video is on starts smoking. And Mac realizes the smell, and it's plastique inside the keyboard there. He realizes that this computer is going to detonate. But Riley realizes that this hard drive is probably our only way of getting any intel on the ghost. So I need to be able to transfer this data onto my computer. So starts transferring it and realizes, we got to get as much as we can before this bomb detonates. And they realize they got about a minute before everything blows up. So they run out of the building, and Jack is ready to go. He's ready just to leave the laptop behind because he doesn't want to die in Queens. He's really big. No, I don't want to die in Queens. But Riley realizes, no, we need the intel on this. So Matt carries both laptops on as they're connected by a cord where it's doing the data transfer. And they get outside, and Jack stops a garbage truck. Mac says, "Hey, stop that truck." So Jack stops it. Mac goes over as Jack's talking with the garbage truck driver, and gets some gas from the vehicle, comes over and pours gas on top of the plastique. And Riley's like, what are you doing? Why are you adding gas to a potential explosive device? And Mac says that the gas on top of the plastic should dissolve the compound enough that he's able to get the detonator out before anything detonates. And it works, which I do like that Mac says, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but it did. And Riley, realizing, like, you know what, I've been hanging out with this guy, but how many times does he actually say that he's not sure that something's going to work, and he still goes ahead and does it anyway? And I like Jack's response where it's like, you know what, I've learned to stop worrying about that a long time ago. We just got to, that's just part of the deal. Just got to go with it. So they are able to save enough of the laptop to do the data transfer. And as Riley goes through it, they're looking at the ghost files, and he has basically 10 years of video files, almost like a video resume, of all the bombs that he's worked on. He's always attached some sort of camera, whether on the bomb or near the bomb, to be able to record all this that happens when these bombs detonate. And Mac realizes, wait, 10 years? And he starts going back. He goes, I just need a second. And he starts looking through the files, and he finds one. And they're back up in the ghost's apartment that he was using when they come across this. And Max says, you know what, I need to watch this video that's on here from this file alone. So Jack clears everybody out, and Mac goes and watches it. And it flashes us back to 5 years ago when he was in Afghanistan, excuse me. And we see that his CO had been killed, but this now leads up to a little bit before what led to that incident. And we see that we're getting a lot of calls about different bombs being located everywhere. And Mac, they have their robotic device, which is kind of, that goes in and kind of surveys for them, but it's not working at the moment. They need to do a couple of repairs on it. So rather than wait for Mac to be able to fix it, the CEO, Alfredo Pena, says, you know what, we've got so many calls going on today. I'm just going to go in and check on this real quick. I'll be back. So he walks in, and then it cuts to Mac watching it from the inside, which we can tell from Mac's face, first time he's ever seeing it, because you're seeing it from inside the structure, which, knowing that the CO is already dead, realizing that he's not going to walk out of this building alive. He walks into the building and steps on a pressure plate, and immediately cuts the wire. He's not really stressed at all about this. I guess, being in Afghanistan, dealing with bombs on the bomb squad, come across pressure plates before. So he bends down and disconnects it, and then stands back up and lets Mac know, hey, I disconnected the pressure plate. And his last words are where he looks up and realizes, like, wait, is that a camera? And then the whole place blows up. And Mac is understandably brought to tears about this, because we find out as he's disarming the plate that he's talking to Mac and letting Mac know how much he appreciates Mac filling in for him for 3 weeks to let him go back home and see the birth of his daughter. And he's wondering, like, wow, what's it going to be like to have a daughter in my life? I think I'm going to get turned into a big old softie. And then sadly that we know that that's not going to happen now, because the bomb goes off, and Alfredo Pena doesn't make it out of there intact. And so Mac's really taken aback by this, because this is the first time that he ever heard this part of the conversation. Because originally when Alfredo walked into the building, the radios, they lost contact, went on the fritz, and so he never heard what he was saying while he was inside the building. So to hear all this, it just already makes just a regretful situation hurt just a little bit more. And of course, Pena's got a wife and daughter, and Mac has never visited them. He really regrets never staying in touch with them. And Jack can sympathize, because of course Jack has been in the service as well, and realize, like, it's one thing to serve with people, but when you come back, you realize you don't really see each other that often, because it can bring up too many bad memories. It could equally be just as nice to be able to connect with people, but also could bring up all the terrible things that happened while you were serving together that you had to go through. And so for some people, they just, rather than have the potential of that happening, they just kind of keep their distance from the people that probably they're the closest to in their lives. I mean, you kind of, you trusted each other with your very lives in really intense situations. But once that's done, you don't kind of want that reminder. You want to try to just forget those parts of your life as much as possible and kind of settle into some kind of semblance of normalcy. And basically, Max says, this is an old wound that's not going to get closed until he finds a ghost and puts him away. So Jack, which I love, always got his back, always has Mac's back, and says, all right, well, let's go get this guy. And Riley comes up and realizes, hey, guess what? It wasn't just all these video files, but he also kept financial records on this laptop as well. And the ghost used a shell company. And this shell company not only paid for the rent for this apartment, but it also paid for a warehouse in Queens. And they drive over to this warehouse in Queens, and Mac says, all right, hold on. I'm going to be the first one in. You guys can follow after me. And just as they take a step away from their truck, the warehouse explodes. Huge explosion. Basically slams all three of them back against the truck. And so then we come to Thornton arriving on the site. It's a little bit time later. They've got some, got the bomb squad. They got some fire department, police. Thornton shows up as well. Mac and Jack and Riley are inside the building, and they found a body. And they feel like the blast trauma is so severe that it's going to be well before they can get a positive ID. But they feel like that it was the ghost. And Charlie's there along with Mac and Jack. And Jack is noticing a smell in the air, and he's wondering, why does it smell like bleach? And Charlie explains that it's acetone peroxide. It basically it's a medium that used for explosive devices, and it's more gas than burn. So it's that they call it the mother of Satan. It's a really dangerous chemical compound for anybody to use, especially even for experts, because one wrong move and it can go up in a very big explosive manner. Now, Charlie thinks that it was a ghost. He kind of got bit by his own bit by the bomb that he was trying to build for the UN. And Mac doesn't buy it. He thinks the ghost is too smart to fall for something like this. That even though this is a very volatile compound to use as part of an explosive device, the ghost is no dummy. And so Mac doesn't believe that he's going to fall for something this easily. And then we basically see, as he's saying that, he flashes back to when he first met Pena back at EOD training 6 years ago, basically a year before he was in Afghanistan. And he's talking with Pena, and he's basically on the training ground, and he's working with the bomb, thinking that he's defused it. And he gets back, and Pena says, you know what, the bomb went off, didn't make it. And Mac is mad because he feels like, I disarmed this bomb. It was done. I don't understand how it could go off. And they say, you were in such a rush you didn't bother to step back and look at the big picture. And it was a remote control radio controlled detonation, RF signal. That if Mac was so concerned about the actual wires and stuff on the bomb, that if he'd just taken over and used an RF jammer, the bomb would have been stopped and everybody would have been saved. So Pena is really trying to stress on Mac is that you got to step back and look at the bigger picture. And he asks Mac, what is the first rule? And Mac says, identify what can kill you now and what can kill you later. And Pena asks, what can kill you now? Max says, the bomb. And Pena corrects him, and he says, no, it's getting emotional about the bomb. And it continues that you have feelings about the bomb, but you know what? The bomb has zero feelings about you. So you've got to try to distance yourself from any kind of attachment like that so that you can operate in as calm a manner as possible and be able to look at the big picture and not get distracted by these minute details. And so Mac realizes that this is all a distraction, and the ghost wants all of them to think that he's dead, so that way they call off the intensive search, and then he's able to go back to what his original mission was, is to go and bomb the UN and stop these peace talks from continuing. So actually, nobody really buys it. He's like, whether Thornton, Riley, Jack, even Charlie, they're like, I don't know. I mean, we have a body right here. We have all his travel, we have his passports, we have things like this that shows that he was ready to go and take off before all this happened. And that takes a little bit of convincing. And the one person that first comes over to Mac's side is Jack. And he says, are you sure on this? And Mac says, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. So that's good enough for Jack and good enough for Riley. So they take off in pursuit of Mac. And I like a moment where Thornton stops and asks Charlie, has he always been like this? And Charlie even says, what, a man who's trusted his gut? Yeah. And then Charlie and Thornton are right there after him. So they get to the UN, and they're trying to figure out, well, all right, we don't know exactly what the ghost looks like, but so how are we going to be able to figure out where he is amongst all these people, all various points of entrance into the building? And so Max says, hey, we need a bigger view, like an eye in the sky type view of this. So he asks Riley to pull up some cameras from above so they can look at everything around the building. And they notice on one of the back parts of the building, there are two vehicles that are pulling up. And Mac realizes that's redundant. There shouldn't be 2 vehicles. You only need 1 for that. So that's where the ghost is going to be making his move. So they head over to that part of the building, and they see a man kind of coming down over by a police truck, and Mac tells Jack, like, keep an eye on that cop. And as the cop gets into the truck, he kind of looks back, makes eye contact with Jack and Mac, and then realize, that's a ghost. That is the guy. So they bust off in pursuit, and they get to the truck. They open up the door, and you can kind of tell that clearly this is not going to be a good thing, because the ghost is standing still inside by the front part of the truck, and leaving. So basically the cabin is empty, but standing there, just kind of looking back to kind of like make sure, hey, you guys are following me in here, right? And Jack continues into the cabin of the truck and steps on a pressure plate. You can hear like the click. And then the ghost takes off, gets a car, and drives off. And Thornton, wants to get an APB out on that vehicle. But Mac is all about, do not move. You are standing on a pressure plate. So whatever you do, you got to keep your feet where they are. And Jack is freaking out about this. So Ghost makes his escape, and Mac realizes, all right, I'm not going anywhere until we make sure that you are safe with this bomb. And it's, I gotta wonder how that it would be if you're standing on a pressure plate. Like if somebody tells you, all right, you're standing on a pressure plate, do not move. And I feel like standing is not, it shouldn't be, at least in your mind. You're like, what's so hard about that? Just stand still, don't move. But also knowing that, gosh, I'm trying to think of the times I've stood in line at the supermarket, or I'm in line for a ride, or just at the movie theater or whatever, that you can't help but fidget. Especially if you're not going anywhere, the line is long, you've been standing in the same place for, 10, 15 minutes, gosh, imagine standing there for like an hour or two. But you can't help but just fidget. You just kind of naturally shift your weight. You kind of look around, you kind of pace back and forth, even if it's a small little circle, maybe just, step 1 or 2 steps in either direction. Just kind of the natural way that you just kind of kill time when you're supposed to be in a, still position. So I could see how, it'd be so hard to, when you start thinking about it, like, all right, I have to stay still. Oh wait, oh gosh, my leg. My feet are getting sweaty. Should I move them? I don't know. So I can understand how it would be. It sounds easy to stand still on a pressure plate, but I could see if you're actually the one standing on that, your life's counting on it. It might be all of a sudden a million reasons start coming into your head about why it's impossible for you to stand still on that pressure plate for any length of time. So Mac tells Jack, hey, do not move. I'm going to go look around this vehicle, try to locate where the bomb is. And Jack has a confession to Thornton, says, you know what? I gotta be honest. I got a confession. I am starting to lose it right now. Understandably so. So you're standing on a pressure plate, which could potentially kill you at any moment. This could be your last moments alive. I could see why you'd start to lose it. There's no way that somebody wants to go out. And so Thornton starts trying to calm him down. You got to think of a place in your life, a time in your life where you were relaxed and calm, and start just focusing on that little moment. And Jack kind of dials into a point in his life where he felt like that, and that was back in 2010, where he was in Peru, and he had to Skype in for his fantasy football league draft, and he had a great draft. He had a great draft, you guys. He had a really great draft. I mean, he basically it was almost like one of the snake drafts. So when you're at a round, you not only get like the last pick of that round, but then you get the first pick of the next round. So what a great deal! I like to think that that this draft was so good and so sweet that for 6 years it is stuck in Jack's head. Like, this is one of my crowning jewels of just pure awesomeness. That even 6 years later is one of the first things that pops into his head as a moment of calm awesomeness in his life. Is really cool. And even Riley's like, great, I'm glad your pretend football league brought you like any sort of peace. Oh, hey, let's do we got the chat pack up here. Let's see. Boo69. Hey, Boo69. Good to see you. Jack would be rich for every dollar he would get when Mac wasn't sure that things wasn't sure the things he does would work. Yeah, going back to a little bit earlier there with the gas on the plastique, and it was heartbreaking to see Mac watch the video. Yeah, that was very true. It was Mac really had a strong connection there with Pena. And we were that Jack was going to die from the bomb from the truck. No, there's no way. Jack is not going to die. You don't have George Eads on a show and you're going to kill him off like that. No way. Especially given that everybody was still standing. I mean, this is a pressure plate, but Thornton and Riley were still right there. They weren't going anywhere. So I realized that Jack wasn't going to be in any danger, any true life-threatening one. It was going to just add tension to the scene, but no way was Jack going to go. Not with everybody still in proximity to him. So Mac surveys the truck and opens up a side panel and sees all the explosive inside there, and gets back to Thornton and says, "I found it, and there's enough explosives on this truck to take out a whole city block." So now that Mac knows what the bomb is, he sees, all right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to disarm the wires on the pressure plate. And he starts getting ready to cut the red and the green wire underneath Jack's feet. And just as he's about to do that, he starts flashing back to Pena. And he says, like, oh, you know what? He's Pena saying, hey, see things for what they really are and not what they appear to be. That flashes back in Mac's mind, and he realizes, oh, wait a second. This whole time, the ghost has been playing us. He's always been doing plans within plans, bombs within bombs. Even with Pena back in Afghanistan 5 years prior, there was, even though he disarmed the pressure plate, there was another bomb in the building. And he realizes, you know what, the pressure plate, that's like the obvious. That's the one that suckers you into disarming it and not realizing that there's a secondary bomb in there. And he kind of looks around in the cabin of the police truck, and he notices a vent. And he asks Jack, without moving, just move just shift your weight a little, shift your legs and your feet a little bit, but don't take your feet off this pressure plate. Unscrew that vent. And a little tense moment is, Jack, drops one of the screws onto the ground, but he opens up the vent and realizes that there's a second bomb in there, and it's connected to the first. So if you snip off the wires for the pressure plate without deactivating the rod that's inside, the bolt that's inside for the vent bomb's going to go off regardless. So now they realize this is getting a little bit more challenging. So you got to get you got to disarm the vent bomb, and then you can disarm the pressure plate. Jack, of course, is too nervous to be able to unscrew this, the bolt from the vent bomb, and so Mac realizes that. He's like, Jack's too nervous. He's, understandably so. You're standing at a pressure plate that could kill you at any moment if you shift your weight in the wrong way. So he says, all right, you are too nervous and too jittery to be able to twist this bolt out. So you know what? I'm going to be your hands. So he looks around, finds like a wheel off of a hot dog cart, finds some police tape, finds, of course, some masking tape and some scotch tape, his Swiss Army knife, and fashions a way that Mac will be Jack's hands. Mac gives Jack some masking tape, has him wrap it around the bolt, and then he's going to place the Swiss Army knife there, kind of almost like a pair of pliers around the bolt, and then he basically sets up like a pulley system there with the police tape kind of rigged out, almost like a rope there, and it's going to be on different pulleys, kind of leads through some of the holes and hoops in like cab drawers and stuff in the police truck. Outside, using the wheel from the hot dog cart is kind of like a little pulley as well, and Mac's going to basically start pulling on that rope to start using his screwdriver, the Swiss Army knife, to act as a plier and start unscrewing the bolt from its connection inside the vent bomb. So he starts doing that. And it pops out, and realizing that Jack is safe. But of course, Jack's like, all right, that's good. It's all done. And Mac's got to just race up to the police truck and say, yeah, do not move until I cut these wires. And snips the wires off, and all is good. Interesting the way they ended, because it really wasn't any big confrontation with the ghost whatsoever. He sets up Jack to step on this pressure plate, but then gets away, and that's the last that we see for the ghost for this episode. So really cool that we know that the ghost is out there. He knows that Mac and Jack are after them. Mac and Jack have an idea of what this guy looks like now. So they actually have visual confirmation of the ghost, which is something that nobody's ever had before. So I'd be curious to see where this goes and later on in the season. But with Jack safely away from the pressure plate and the bomb, the mission for right now is done. They don't get the complete win because they don't get the ghost, but everybody gets home safely, and they stop the bomb from going off and let the peace talks continue. So they head back to L.A., and Bozer's basically setting up everybody with masks. Which president are they going to be? And Riley's like, I don't know if I want to do this. And Bozer's like, you know what? You can be any president you want. And I do like Riley's choice that she wanted to be Morgan Freeman from Deep Impact. What a nice pull. Like, hey, Morgan Freeman was president. He was president in Deep Impact. That counts. If we could be any president, you didn't say it had to be a real president. It could also be a fictional one as well. So looks like Riley's going to be going as a sweet Morgan Freeman. And Bozer asks Jack, well, it takes a long time to be able to pour the molds for these masks and get everything done properly. So when's Mac going to be back? And Jack lets him know, like, hey, he'll be back soon. He just had to make one stop. And that stop is to go see the wife and daughter of Pena, his old CO. And basically walks up, hugs the wife, and then sits down and talks to the daughter. Fixed the wings on her little angel doll, and then offers us to have some tea with her there at her little table and tell her some stories about her father and what a great guy he was. One of the bravest men that Mac has ever known. And so as Mac ends the episode, it's the ghost may have gotten away, but right now is a time to heal. So it's a time for Mac to kind of let those old wounds heal up a little bit and help a young little girl get to know her father just a little bit better. So Boo69, there we go. Do you think the ghost is going to come back by the end of the season? I would guarantee that we're going to see the ghost at least one more time this season. I feel like you're not going to set a character up like this early in the season if you're not going to get a chance to kind of go up against him again. And I have a feeling you could even do, I'd almost say one, maybe two more times this season. One more time to kind of see like, man, he still kind of got away from us. And then maybe a final confrontation before the season's out where they finally get a chance to catch him. He has the potential to be a reoccurring villain, so I could see them going up one more time, the ghost getting away, second time where they capture him, but he's still alive, so he's still incarcerated, and then he could come back second season, getting out of jail, and then going up against Mac and the team again. So I don't think we haven't seen the last of the ghost. I'm predicting two more encounters this season. I mean, I'm gonna say maybe one like early next year, I mean, like January, February, and then another one as we're winding down towards the end of the season. I feel like he could really tie in towards as we're rushing towards the season finale of Mac kind of having some of a little of his elements from earlier this season coming back to haunt him, so to speak. So I feel like two more encounters with the ghost around the table. And Boo also says it was nice that Mac fixed the little girl's angel doll. That was a sweet scene. Yeah, I did like that. But it was also interesting there, like she didn't want to have anything to do with Mac, was just gonna like not even look at him until he got that angel fixed, and then he was like, all right, you know what, I'll introduce myself, I'll tell you what my name is, and we can have a little chat. But I did like how she did perk up as Mac told her that her father was one of the bravest men he ever knew, and would he like to hear some stories about him. And it was really cool to see the little girl like perk up, as imagine like any girl that's never had a chance to meet her father, seen pictures, heard stories from her mom, but to know somebody to come, a friend of your father's, to come and visit and tell you that he's one of the bravest men he ever knew, and tell you stories about him. How can some little girl not smile about that? Get a chance to hear some really cool dad stories. So so as we wrap up this episode, it was nice. We're getting close to November sweeps. I mean, that's next week, as we're getting into November. That's one of the sweeps months, which means I think we're going to hear back from. We're going to get Nikki, a little bit more movement on that storyline, and figure out a little bit more about the organization that she works for. I've been talking about that for the last several weeks as one prediction of mine, and I'm sticking with it. So Nikki for November, one of these weeks leading up to, I'm going to say certainly before Thanksgiving, we're going to see Nikki on canvas again and learn more about this organization. That is my prediction.
And
Thank you,
now,
Juliet, in the
your
booth.
AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
That's right. I just kind of rolled in predictions. I didn't even make an announcement, so thank you, Juliet, for giving us that music right there. So that's my one prediction. And then, as Boo69 asked, I'm going to say we'll see the ghost probably two more times this season. And we still, the other big thing we have in the air is Mac's dad. Are we going to see any more movement on that front? And I also think we're going to see more movement on that. We're going to get some kind of response from Mac's letter sometime later this season. I think at this point, since it hasn't been kind of brought up again, I could see it not happening until sometime early next year, maybe February or so, that we'll get some kind of revisit on this letter from Mac's dad. And then, maybe see him, maybe at least allude to him, meeting Mac leading up to the season finale. So that if we don't meet him this season, it's led up into such a point that he could be in jeopardy as part of the season finale. So we don't actually get a chance to meet him this season, but it's set up that, yes, we're going to go see his dad, and that's, then they get a chance to, over the summer, to cast some actor as MacGyver's dad, and that's who's somebody we can meet early in season 2. Fingers crossed that he gets a second season pickup. That's always seems like a good moment when you have some kind of rich character in somebody's past to be able to set them up in the first season, use the summer to do a lot of good, great casting to find a really good actor for that role, some sort of a relatively good name that's going to get you excited, like, hey, that's a really cool idea that this person is X's father, and then introduce them in the second season. So Boo's got a prediction. I predict that Bozer either finds out what Mac actually does or moves out. I'm no ill will against Bozer, but I feel like it's Bozer's time to move out. I still these scenes of his just really don't do anything. They just don't add anything. Nothing that because I think the idea is like that shows some kind of humorous kind of moment that's not in a life-threatening situation. And I don't think you need Bozer as the facilitator of scenes like that. You could still get those scenes of just Mac, Jack, and Riley, or any combination of those three, hanging out at either Mac's place or someplace in Los Angeles, like a bar or a club or a restaurant or, someplace like a park, anywhere. Just them hanging out, having a fun moment. And you don't need Bozer there as the kind of driving force of setting up those scenes. So, I'm with you, Boo. I think Bozer should move out. I'm curious if he'd actually do that this season. I have a feeling the show gets a second season. I don't think Bozer's coming back for a second season. I think he's going to I think production's got to realize it's just kind of a chore to always try to find a reason to have Bozer as part of the plot. So why don't we just move him out and just focus a little bit more on Thornton, Mac, Jack, and Riley. And also another one, I think in the season finale that Mac's dad will show up in the final scene as a cliffhanger. That's a good call too. We could do it could be one of those where we may not see his face. We could see him from the back, where we all of a sudden we see like a door open, and then we hear Mac as he looks at camera and he goes, "Dad," and then it fades to black. And so we don't know who the actor is, and they still gives them a chance to cast somebody over the summer for then season 2 as we come in and we find out who the actor is that's playing Mac's dad. So I could see that, Boo. I still think that, if the dad shows up, we will not see his face, so that production has a little bit more time to figure out who exactly they want to play Mac's dad. So, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Macgyver After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Folks, thanks so much for sticking with me here for these past 5 weeks as I've done this solo. I didn't want to just not do the show because I love the show too much, and I love all of you so much as well for doing this with me. So, folks, as always, you can like us on Facebook. Give us those 5 stars on iTunes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, thanks so much for hopping in the chat for these past 5 weeks. It's been great to break down these episodes with you. Boo69, thank you for being such a vocal chatter. It was great bouncing stuff back and forth with you during the course of these last 5 weeks. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Macgyver After Show here on AfterBuzz TV with my co-host, Mike Kalinowski, in my co-partner seat. We'll see you then. Take care.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.